The Chargers have a lot of decisions to make, with about half the 2025 roster set to hit free agency in the next coming weeks. So let's break down who to keep, who to cut, in our first edition of Chargers Free Agency Breakdown. Let's get into it.
Who's got it better than us? Nobody!
Right. Now, I know I promised to do player evaluations and I keep talking about it, but this idea of who to keep and who to cut has been burning a hole in my soul. So I'm gonna have to talk about this first, and I promise I'll give you playoff evaluations next week. So stay tuned for that. But we got to get into who to keep and who to cut. A lot of rumors going around. I talked about Sierra Tart getting his contract last episode in regards to him getting his 3-year extension, much deserved. Shouts out to that. Definitely like keeping him in the building. Matching him up with Jamar Caldwell in that interior D line is going to be looking good for the foreseeable future. Chris O'Leary definitely got two good ones up front. But yeah, we're going to talk about exactly who we're going to keep, who we're going to cut, and what the salary cap is looking like. What it would look like once we cut some guys, what the team needs are. Of course, the re-signings that I have highlighted for the team that are musts, in my opinion. And then we'll get into some guys that I'm going to highlight that we could target potentially in free agency. I think there would be really good moves for the team. So we will get into all that. So, like I said, we will get into who to keep and who to cut. Some guys on his right side here. I think kind of know those faces. They need to go and need to go somewhere else. But we'll get into it all. But yeah, so starting off with the salary cap. The salary cap has been projected to be about $303 million this coming season for 2026. That's a very good number. The salary cap is going up and up, and I think in less than 10 years it's doubled. And so the revenue is really good for the NFL, and it's showing in the salary cap. The Chargers and a lot of other teams have more money to spend come 2026, so that definitely could bode well for the team and getting some key free agents coming into the organization for the next upcoming season. So at this particular juncture right now, we have about $88 million in cap space that is free. Number has come down a bit. I think we were number one before we signed a Sierra Tart deal. So that brought the number down slightly. But I've got a formula that's going to get us back over to the $100 million free space mark. And I think you'll like what I'm talking about. And guys that definitely need to go. And there'll be easy cuts to happen where it's not really punitive to the cap and they don't have to deal with a lot of dead money. And they're dead weight, in my opinion, so they need to go. They definitely need to go. So starting off with who to cut, some names you definitely see on here that are, some names that have been mud in a lot of Chargers fans' psyche in regards to their play, for sure. The entire interior O-line has to go. Zion Johnson's a free agent. They didn't exercise his 5th-year option, so he's going to be free agent. I don't think you need to resign him at all. He needs to go, but he's going to be free to let go. It's nothing to be had there. Contract's up, just clean break, no big deal there. So let him walk. In addition to that, guys that are still going to be on the roster, technically still on the contract with 2026, they need to be gone. Mekhi Becton started with him. Well, started with Bradley Bozeman. Let's be real about it. He is the most glaring and ugly need that needs to go. He needs the person that's number one on everybody's list that needs to go. That's for sure. He's got to get out of here. So is Mekhi Becton. Mekhi Becton fleeced us with that one good year of being hidden in that Eagles dominant O-line and winning a Super Bowl. Fleeced the Chargers into thinking he was going to be better. He quickly reverted back to his Jets days. Often injured. Overweight in my opinion. Just terrible at pass blocking and not much. Better in run blocking either. So fleece the Chargers out of a 2-year deal, but it's very, very friendly to cut after one. So they definitely can get rid of him, saving almost $10 million, 9.7 to be exact. Cutting him will free up $9.7 million in cap space. Next, cutting Bradley Bozeman. will be saving $5.8 million. And I believe their dead money is in the realm of between the two of them, they're like $3 to $4 million in total. So it's not much dead money to keep for a year to cut them, and you will free up a lot of money in cap space by cutting them today. I would do it today or yesterday or the day after, but it has to happen before the league year starts. Get him out of here. Get rid of Will Dissly as well. He hasn't really contributed to the team. You know, I think we all have our eyes on Ronnie Gaskin be the number one tight end, and Will Dissly played very little if he was not hurt or healthy scratches. You know, I think it's time to move on from him and bring in some younger, more dynamic talent potentially as a tight end too. You can save $4 million by cutting him before the league year starts or when the league year starts. But I would definitely get rid of him and save that $4 million for sure. And Bud Dupree needs to go as well. He'll be even though he's the fourth, designated pass rusher, he hasn't really done much of anything since he's been a Charger, in all honesty. He's been a wash. He definitely hasn't contributed much. And the stats sheet show it. If you want to go to ESPN or whatever you get your stats from and look up his numbers, even in a reserve role, hadn't done much. Not great in the run defense department, nor is he great at the pass rush. Pass rush is even worse or even harder or cringier to watch. So I think Bud Dupree needs to go as well. And that's going to free up $3.5 million in cap space. So that in total would clear at $23 million in cap space. So that will put us over the $100 million mark in free space for sure. So I'm definitely for these moves, and they need to happen, in my opinion. I think they will happen for the most part. I think they really are targeting to revamp the interior O-line for sure. We're getting the tackles back. And, just guys that just aren't panning out and just, quote unquote, dead weight on the roster. I think they just need to go, and Will Dissly and Bud Dupree. So they need to cut them and get that money freed up. So after cuts, that will give us approximately about $111 million in free space to spend in free agency. And that's great. That's a great number. That will put us, I believe, second in the numbers of where we land in regards to the most cap space in the entire league and for 2026. So I'm definitely liking that. So the teams that have spent money in free agency here lately, especially the Patriots, sitting in the Super Bowl, now coming up this Sunday. So yeah, I definitely think that is something to be kind of copycatting in a sense. And ironically enough, now look at the numbers. We actually will be tops in free space, assuming the Titans or the Raiders don't make any moves to free up space even further than that. But that will actually make us number one in free space. Now I'm looking at the numbers. So yeah, we'll be number one in free space for 2026, and spend it wisely is what I say. But yeah, we'll get into exactly who we need to resign as well as guys that we want to target here now. But yeah, I like that number as being $100 million of free money to spend, so we can improve this roster and get it to the point where it will not only be a playoff team but a contending team. Because I said in the start of this pod, in my preseason coverage, that I still felt like, although year two was going to be better than year one, which it really wasn't. It was pretty much the same in that space, same amount of wins and things of that nature, instead of a first round exit, right? But it was way more turbulent. And I said that the Chargers was still probably one more season away. It was going to probably take Harbaugh to year three to get this team into a contending moment with the cap space free, with the drafts and the roster turnover. I said it's going to take at least, to year three, and we're here now. So with the amount of money they got to spend, getting healthy, an O-line and revamping the interior, bringing in some new fresh faces in the draft and in free agency, I think that it might be time if they spend the money wisely. So we're looking at you, Joel Ortiz, looking at you to work your magic. So getting to the idea of who to resign, I got a few guys on this list that I think that are must resigns in my opinion. Starting at the top with Odafe Oweh. He proved his mettle, he proved his worth. And it just might be a situation too. It's really dicey. It's really a funny game that we're playing with guys that are on contract years, because sometimes guys really ball out and give their all in the contract year, and the moment they get paid, they kind of revert back to their old ways in a sense, and they don't play as well. So I'm hoping that the change of scenery and his ability to be utilized in California with the Chargers versus being in Baltimore with the Ravens is going to be different. But by all accounts, though, he definitely balled out and was a primary threat in the pass rush game for the Chargers. So I definitely think it is priority one to get him re-signed, especially with Khalil Mack being in limbo. And I'll break the news now and say that about him, since I mentioned his name, that I got a feeling, he is a free agent, but I got a feeling that Khalil Mack's probably going to retire. Unless he really feels like his body can endure another season, the elbow injury kind of, probably is messing with him and things of that nature. Hopefully, he'll have any lingering effects of that. But if that's bothering him and his body's starting to feel the effects of the longevity of his career, he might just go ahead and hang it up. Aaron Donald style. Not Aaron Donald style. Obviously, getting with Super Bowl to go out, but just go out in his early 30s and just hang it up and decide to take his money and ride off to the pastures and say he had a good career and retire as a Charger. But if we can convince him to come back for a year for some, decent money, not top dollar for pass rushers. We're not talking top dollar here, at your age. But if you can come back, in the realm of maybe $10 to $12 million, for 1 year, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it because I really like his run defense. And still his ability to get to pass rush, his ability to be a pass rusher in that space, even at his age. So, he would definitely be added to the room. But yeah, I definitely believe that signing Oweh will definitely be a priority once his Khalil Mack's likely either going to retire or maybe be with another team if he wants too much money. We'll see. We'll see what his thoughts are, but we'll see how that shakes out. But I got a feeling that something in my gut tells me he might not be with the team, in retirement in the off season. So we'll see. Next, I think we need to resign Keenan Allen 1 more year. Having that, that chain mover, that third down savant, that highly intelligent and highly skilled route runner in the building, let him finish his career here. I think that we should definitely do that. I mean, he came back for peanuts, last season, at the beginning of the season to help out his offense. He was healthy all year, got his incentives and things of that nature. So give him a similar contract, very inexpensive, incentive based. And, as long as he stays healthy like he did last year and contributed to the room, I think it'll be an asset and bring him back. I'm definitely down for bringing Keenan back and keeping that continuity in the receiver room and working with Mike McDaniel's offense in 2026. I like that move. And bring back Tony Jefferson, man, for sure. Absolutely 100%. Tony, loves the fact that Chris O'Leary is going to be the coach for the defense in 2026. He loved the Chargers. He loved the team. He loves the continuity. He loves the room. It all makes sense. And he's just a playmaker, even at his advanced age for an NFL player. He just makes plays, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to tell you from a safety spot. So, this is his football IQ and his awareness can't be coached, can't be taught. He just has it. He's a football player. So, in lining up with Chris O'Leary for another run, I think it makes all the sense in the world. It does. I think we should bring him back, on something like, in regards to a contract as well. And then Jamari Salyer, I think he's probably the best of the worst O-line that we had this past year. You didn't have much bad to say about Jamari Salyer out throughout the year. So having him as a reserve guard, based upon who you're gonna, replace the interior O-line with, hopefully starters from free agency and or the draft. But I think you should bring back Jamari for a reserve role on something like he didn't garner a big contract in the sense, from his production for his 4 years being here. But I think he could be a very inexpensive and positive, body in the room in regards to a reserved guard role. And, again, he could be a swing tackle as well. Hopefully we don't have the same issues with Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt this year, but, he can play tackle or guard. So I think that bringing him back will be an asset. I like what he does. He's not elite, but he's not trash. I think if we had an injury or, something like that, or, you need a sixth lineman like they like to run in certain cases, when they want to go heavy on goal line, things of that nature, I think Jamari will be a good asset. And I think he won't cost much. So I think Jamari coming back would be a good idea. So I'd like to bring him back. Also bring back Trey Lance. He was a really good backup in the preseason. Didn't see much work, obviously, with Herbert playing most of the games except for the last one. But I think Trey Lance could benefit from being in LA another year on the Harbaugh, and for sure benefit from the tutelage of Mike McDaniel. I think that would take his game to another level, and he really could be a really good serviceable backup for the Chargers. And having a good backup, as you see with Justin Herbert's, minor injury history, having a good backup for a series or two or a game, if he needs to sit down for some reason, having a good backup is the thing now in the league for sure. If you have a good backup, you can keep the thing running, keep the ship floating. But if you don't, you're going to go down in the dumps. So I definitely believe bringing Trey Lance back is a good idea. And again, inexpensive. And to bring back Kamani Vidal. Now, I was still ranting and raving about the fact that they voided his contract, because I still think when I said that in the beginning of the season, they shouldn't have done it. They should have kept him on the roster, versus having Hassan Haskins on the roster, which I don't get. I still don't, but he needs to go. And bring back Kamani Vidal, and give him a nice, at least reinstate the contract he gave him when you drafted him in the draft 2 years ago. So at least reinstate his contract and keep that intact and keep him on the contract for 2 more years and bring him back as Marion's backup, because I think that's tandem of a Marion Hampton, Kamani Vidal, and maybe adding a third running back of Mike McDaniel's liking will be a great room to have in 2026. So I definitely bring Kamani Vidal back on, and reinstate his I think it's a 6th round contract. Bring them back, let him reinstate that, and let him be on the contract for the next 2 years, man, and make him the unequivocal backup running back to Mario Hampton. So I like what they're doing there. So they should bring him back in that space. So, but getting to after you resign the guys, getting to who we need in free agency and the draft, I think there's some clear positions that need to be filled. Clearly, the entire interior O-line, right guard, center, and left guard, they all need to be filled. Center is the most paramount one of all of those. So center first, then guards next. I think you could get away with having Jamar Saleh play, left guard or actually right guard. And I think he'd probably be more suited as a right guard if you were forced to. But I think you should go out and get you 2 guards in the center in the free agency and or the draft in the combination. 2nd round in the draft, a couple of free agents. I'm going to get into some names I think will be good fits for the team as well in the second. But definitely got to fix the interior line. I think, letting Will Dissly go, like I talked about earlier, you're going to need another tight end too. So I got some names for that. Another running back, like I talked about in Mike McDaniel's video a few days ago, how he likes, fast, speedy running backs. I think getting a third, running back of that caliber for third downs and certain packages that Mike wants to put in and implement, having that, literally clearly burning, speed guy, as the third running back will definitely fit Mike McDaniel's ideology like he had in Miami. So getting a third running back of that caliber, I think, will be something that they will look into for sure. And I got a name or two that on the list to maybe fulfill that role that's going to be free agent going forward. Because if you look at what he did in Miami, Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert, Jalen Wright, Ollie Gordon, all had that same similar body style. Stocky, one-cut, fast guys. Put their foot in the ground and just hit it at 22 miles an hour and just get downhill and be in the end zone before you know it. So I definitely believe that's a thing that they're going to try to address in free agency or the draft. And going out and getting an edge rusher. I'm more so of the ideology of using their 1st round pick for an edge rusher because it's a really deep edge rusher class in 2026 coming out of college. I think we should spend our 1st round pick on the edge rusher and our 2nd pick and maybe a 3rd on interior O-line. But yeah, I definitely think we should go out and get an edge rusher, especially if Khalil Mack's not coming back. Because I love always pass rushing skills, but he leaves a little bit to be desired in run defense. So, pairing the kid that you draft, or if Khalil comes back, having him and Tuli for run defense and having Owe and Cal Kennard for pass rush specialist, packages, I think that's better suited to fit what Chris O'Leary would like to do on defense if he has any inkling of what Jesse Minter did in his tenure. So I thankfully think that we should address the edge early, especially with it being a really good edge rusher draft in 2026. And going out get another interior D lineman to go along with T.R. Tartan and Jamar Caldwell. Adding another guy to that room that's going to be really stout in run defense to keep them big hog mollies off our linebackers. If I think that's going to be a good thing to address in free agency, as well as get another inside linebacker. Denzel Perryman is a free agent. We had Troy Dye and Delshon Phillips and a few other guys kind of rotating in. They were okay, weren't great. So I would definitely believe that going out and, a dream pick would be getting Devin Lloyd from Jacksonville. He's a free agent and likely not going to re-sign with the team. So he's going to garner a heavy paycheck though. So if you really want to get him, you have to pay for him. But I definitely think that's a dream to pair him up with Deion in that room. But if you don't do that, go out and get your one in the draft for sure to fill that void and line somebody up next to Deion, because we don't know what Junior is going to be or not going to be at this point. Junior Colson's still on the roster. He's going to come back from injury in this next season. You could technically pair him up with Deion, and use that, the youth movement as your starters, but it just depends on his development, where he's at. He really had the opportunity to play a whole lot because he's been injured for the first 2 years in a lot of spaces. So You know, he might have to work him back slow and maybe getting another guy in the room as competition and, you know, maybe a potential upgrade if you don't think Junior's going to work out. So we'll see how things roll. But I mean, I definitely think you should add to that room if you can, especially in the draft or free agency. And again, I'm watching the Devin Lloyd move. If he wants to play in warm weather like he did in Jacksonville, I'm down to see it happen for sure. But again, he's going to want a big contract, and he played like it, so he definitely deserves it. He definitely deserves it. So to round this out, there's a few names on my list that I have that are clear fits, I believe, for the team and could definitely add to the room. Starting with the right guard, Elijah Very Tucker, who's coming off 2 injuries from the Jets. Very highly touted coming out of college. He had a pretty solid season, his first rookie year in the first half of his second sophomore season, but he got hurt towards Achilles. I think he had tore his bicep this year, so he's out a lot. And I think that he could be a good viable option at right guard. And I think because of his injury history, he won't garner a really high pay scale as a free agent, even though he's young. So I like that. I guess you can say a lesser move that you could do if you don't get Vera Tucker, Ed Ingram. I like Ed Ingram coming out in the draft, and I don't think he was really utilized to his best of his abilities since he's been in the league. You know, he's bounced around a little bit. So I think Ed Ingram could be a solid, fill-in or a serviceable guy if Vera Tucker's not available. But clearly we're circling this big name on the center list in Tyler Linderbaum. If the Ravens don't renegotiate Lamar Jackson's contract because he's a $72 million cap hit and they're over the cap right now. If they renegotiate Lamar's contract and get the number down, they're probably going to try to either franchise tag or sign Linderbaum to a long-term deal if they can free that money up. But if he hits the market, though, listen, I'm telling you right now, go all in, chips to the table, put all your cash, give him a blank check and say, here, just Spanos, sign it and say, here, put your name on it, put a number that you would like on it and give it back to us and come on and play for us, because I think Tyler Linderbaum will solidify and calm the trepidations that have been in the interior O-line for the past 2 years. You know, ever since we lost Corey Linsley to his heart condition, it's been a revolving door and it's been bad. So bringing a stable Pro Bowl-like body into the room, who's only 25 years old, by the way. So you can probably get 8 to 10 years out of him if you're lucky in that space, and have him paired up with Justin Herbert for that length of time. I like the move. Matter of fact, I don't like it. I love it. So sign Tyler Linderbaum the moment he hits free agency. If you bring him in for a visit, you talk to him on the phone, you talk to his agent, you don't let them off the phone until he's signing a deal. You should be that aggressive. But yes, I definitely think that you definitely can bring in Tyler Linderbaum and it would definitely be good for you. Left guards, little bit of a thinner market, but Dalton Reisner, a little bit older, but definitely very, very good still. Dalton Reisner still plays really good football at left guard, even at his, air quote NFL advanced age. So you could do that for a year while you draft a rookie and develop him behind Reisner. I like that move. And or Dylan Parham. I think Dylan Parham was really a good prospect coming out of college as well. Again, really wasn't utilized and really was in a bad situation where he was at previously. So I believe that if you bring in either one of those, it could be serviceable in a sense that I think Dalton Reisner could come right in and start right away and, calm the O-line, especially if he's going to line up against with Vera Tucker and Linderbaum. I'm loving that combination. Yes, and again, Vera Tucker and Reisner probably won't cost you much. Reisner's age won't garner a high price tag, and Vera Tucker's injury history probably won't garner you a high price tag. So you can spend your money on Linderbaum and go inexpensive with Vera Tucker and Reisner. I think you'll be solid. And you got Alt and Slater on the outside. Yeah, that line is looking like night and day. You could literally go from the worst to the best O-line in the offseason if you play your cards right. So loving those moves. So again, if Ed Ingram and Parham are available, even in reserve roles, I would still maybe throw him a small bag of money to bring them in to compete in that interior O-line room as well. Tight end twos, Daniel Bellinger from the Giants. They got Theo Johnson over there as well. He's going to be a free agent. Bellinger's going to be a free agent. He's been hurt a little bit, kind of been phased out with the all the madness going on in New York. So, but he's still a really good tight end. He's a really good blocker. He's an underrated receiving threat. So I think that he will be a high-end upgrade from Will Dissly at tight end too. So I like Bellinger's game. I really do. I think he was showing some promise before he got hurt his rookie season. And again, it was just a turbulent time. Daniel Jones' situation, Saquon Barkley's situation, the coaching changes. It was just a mess. It was a mess. But he's young. He's still in his mid-20s. and I think he could be a really good serviceable option at tight end too. So I would definitely give him a call. And Noah Fant, a little bit older. I think he's 28 now, but still very solid run blocking and catching threat. Elite athlete. Noah Fant has always been a very highly underrated elite athlete. Coming out of college, he just blew everybody away at the combine and what he could do. I just don't think the people have really, honestly, truly used him the way they need to use him. So I believe that Noah Fant could be a viable option too as a tight end too. This is with his speed and his blocking ability on the backside of our offenses. I like the move. I mean, he kind of gives me the Darren Waller vibe that that he had in Miami, and I think Mike McDaniel might like that. So it's a good name. It's a good name. Tall, rangy, strong body, tight end. So I definitely think that Noah Fant could be serviceable in the Chargers organization as well. Running back 3 is a couple of names that have some pretty notable speed to them. They kind of get that feel of the Miami running backs. Kenye Nwagu. He's a running back from Minnesota, and I think he played with the Jets last year. Very fast. I think he's a 4'3", 4'2" running back. A little lighter. A one cut, speedy guy. He could be an option for running back 3. And Sean Tucker, who I wanted the Chargers to draft when he was available before he got drafted by the Bucks. Or I lie, he didn't even get drafted. The Bucks picked him up as a UDFA, undrafted free agent, and they kept him for the last few years. I think the last 2 years. He's been the last 2 years there, and he's going to be a free agent. So if he hits the market, I'm giving him a call as well. Smaller back, but very fast. I think he runs a 4.3 40 and very productive. Every time he touched the ball in Tampa, it was special. So I definitely think I would call Sean Tucker as well as being a serviceable running back 3. That was his role in Tampa behind Rashad White and Bucky Irvin. So yeah, I believe that he could be definitely a good viable option for that room. And interior D line, David Onyemata, who is one of the most highly rated run defensive personnel grouping from the D line, interior D line in 2025. He's going to be a free agent. So I like his ability to stop the run. He was in Atlanta last year. So I like Onyemata coming in. He's a little bit older, which again should mean he shouldn't cost that much. But bringing him as a third D lineman to make that run defense from the interior very stout, I like that move. So bringing him in will be a good move. DJ Reader, is another good one. He's been historically good. He wasn't that great last year, but from a rating perspective, but he's been historically good against the run. He's going to be a free agent, so I would definitely think about bringing him in. And Jalen Redmond, underrated Vikings, about a 290-pound D lineman, but he's really good against the run last year playing for Minnesota. He actually ranked higher than Leonard Williams and Calais Campbell, to name a few, in run defense of efficiency last year. So Jalen Redmond and Brian Flores' system last year was a problem trying to get him blocked in the run game. So I definitely like Jalen Redmond, and he's young, 25 years old. So you definitely can get a lot of juice out of him if you bring him in. And lastly is a name that a lot of people probably don't realize who he is, but LaCale London. He's a D lineman from the Falcons. He played for the Falcons last year, and he was right under Jalen Redmond in run defense efficiency last year. They were really, here, I want to say 9 or 10 in the listing. Very good against the run as well. Another, I guess you can say 5 technique D lineman, DN/D lineman that you could bring in. Another young guy, I think he's 26. So yeah, I would definitely, call these young guys if you want to have some staying power with them, or call the wily veterans for a year and have them line up and play good ball up front along with our vets and our second year guy with Jamar Caldwell. I think I like in that. So we'll see how things roll, man. But those are my guys I think we should target in free agency. But this is my, I guess you can say rendition or chapter 1 of my free agency targets and my free agency off-season moves that we can do. But yeah, so for the first free agency breakdown, we'll probably do a few more before we get into free agency, maybe 1 or 2, depending on what changes happen in the landscape coming up in the next few weeks, because our free agency doesn't start till I think March 13th ish, around that time frame. So we'll cover at least one more time before then, and we'll get drilled down even further to see who we really can target and how much they will cost. And we'll get into that. So yeah, that's my list. So as always, man, if you're looking for the Electric Shock Podcast on eSpace, we're on YouTube. Please hit that subscribe button to support the podcast movement. Hit us up on all our social medias. If you have any questions about Chargers news, we can be found on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Gmail. The handle is Electric Shock Pod. That's shock with no K. on all platforms. So please get at us for all things Chargers. But in the meantime, between time, man, you got to do one thing and one thing well. You always got to remember to boat up.